All right, guys, welcome to episode 22 of Aussies Taking Over the NBA podcast. This is the premiere show for all your Aussie news in the NBA. I just had to plug it like that. Why the fuck not?
Yep.
We're going to plug a few other things. Our new podcast is up. It's on YouTube. It's called On the King's Dime. That's tracking the Sydney Kings for this season, pre-season, regular season, and obviously with Bogut being added to the mix, it's going to be pretty exciting. So that's cool. We're going to plug our hashtag Collective Studios podcast network. We're also working on another podcast that will be up probably by the end of the year. That's going to be a bit more in-depth and pretty cool.
Yep.
But we'll get into today's ep. We did promise a Mitch Creek season preview, which we're about to get into. And you can follow us on AusNBA Takeover on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Remember to like it and subscribe. That's always handy. Get us out there so people are cool with our stuff. But we are getting a few views and a lot of watches, which is really cool and nice to see. So obviously content is appreciated. So we'll get into it. Mitch Creek featured in the Summer League quite predominantly. And on the back of it, he's obviously gotten the opportunity to play with the Nets, which is, kind of a mid to bottom dwelling franchise, but it's a start into the NBA. Obviously, what this has shown is that a guy who can spend years in the Aussie NBL system does have the skills to match it with the NBA big boys, which is really, really cool to see. So we'll get in on some stats. He's only 6'5", which for me was crazy. Watching him in the Summer League, he was bullying a lot of guys around and spacing a lot of guys out in defense, which really should have just been hammering over the top of him. He's not that tall. He's only 90 kilos, but he just seems to be able to spread the defense, play well one-on-one, move quite quickly, which is great.
Yeah, it's kind of a top-heavy sort of build. Like, he's got broad shoulders, strong in the upper body. He's not a lanky type of a build,
that's why he's 6'5".
Yeah, which is great for, I think NBA bodies are solid as opposed to if you're going to be a very lengthy sort of string bean type build, you need to have a lot of skill to circumvent not having that kind of solid NBA body, which I think he does. I think he's got the type of NBA sort of athletic body that, might give him a bit of an edge and, give him something to offer to the Nets. But yeah, you and I were talking before we started this. 6'5", he plays well above his height and 6'5". I do wonder if Brooklyn do measurements on him, those measurements might change. Because I don't know if he's 6'5". Like, he played way above 6'5" in the Summer League.
Yeah, it's maybe 6'5.5", but even then, he's probably 3 inches below the majority of players in this day and age playing in the small forward or power forward position. I would have think you would have need to be at least between 6'7" and 6'8".
Yeah.
And above 90 kilos or 198 pounds. So really, really good. He played with the Mavericks in the Summer League.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to see him with Doncic, but good showing out, strong showing.
Yep.
And he managed to get the training contract with the Nets.
Yeah, it was a bit that came out of left field a little bit.
Did a bit, yeah.
Apparently, I don't think the Mavericks were really looking to sign him at all. I think they It's one of those things, and we said it during our Summer League podcast. It's a weird setup. Like, it's just like, all right, let's get some talent from around the world, throw them all together with no real training or practice experience, and see who stands out. So it's a lot of bad ISO basketball, and a lot of guys. And I suppose that's where Creek stood out, because I think on the ISO he played really well. Obviously, he played with the Adelaide 36ers. They made it to the NBL Grand Final or the playoffs. They went down, but obviously good playing in a system. He's very, very strong. Been a stalwart of the Boomers for the last 3 or 4 years as well. So
international level, Boomers top 10 team currently. That's with no NBA players.
So I think, there's a pathway to getting onto that Nets team. It's a tough pathway. I wasn't actually aware he is listed as a small forward. He played power forward in all those Dallas games. Brooklyn only have a center and 2 power forwards on their roster. So I thought, there's an avenue in there, but he's listed as a small forward and he's 6'5". So I think it'll take something special for him to sort of get right into that roster and make an impact.
Yeah.
But just to have the foot in the door is massive. Like, that's massive to get just a contract, which means he earns money. He gets a little bit of status. He gets to play with an NBA franchise in, not just in the summer league, but in their preseason and their training camps. And he gets to work in the best facilities in the world. I mean, it's great for him. It's great for anyone to get that sort of deal.
It takes his game to the next level, and it helps the Boomers ultimately, which is really what the epitome of international basketball is about, is getting that gold medal at the Tokyo 2020 games. So we do have to say goodbye to an Aussie out of the NBA. Just on it. Mango Matiang.
Yeah, we recorded that podcast before he got waived, and we were sort of talking about him. And it sucks for him. I hope he gets picked up by another team. I think he has the body and has the ability, showed a lot for the Greensboro Swarm. So
he did. Played good minutes, averaged good stats.
Yeah, I think he led with blocks and rebounds in the G League. Led the franchise, I think.
Yeah, led the franchise. So, was waived, unfortunately, but hopefully he gets picked up by another team. If not, we might see him back in the NBL. It'd be a good big body, potentially up against Bogut, who seems just to be killing everyone in the NBL. I think, he's just so much bigger and more skillful.
Skilled as a big man. Like, he's a talented big man. But it just shows you how volatile just trying to get your foot in the door is in the NBA, because
you have to be something special.
Well, these E10 deals, they kind of give you some guarantee. I mean, they're not fully guaranteed to get you into a G League team, but they're, again, another foot in the door to sort of possibly get Creek into a G League team, which, at the very least, you're playing basketball in the US on your contract. And you can get called up based
on injuries and things like that to play for the Nets. Is the E10 deal, that's finalised come Christmas? If he's playing up until Christmas, after Christmas, all deals are finalised for the year, aren't they? He has to be waived before Christmas. I'm pretty sure that's how it is.
I didn't actually read into what the E10 as a deal actually does, but the deal, as per NBL.com, there was an article written by Liam Santamaria. He said he inked a deal to participate in the training camp with the Nets before spending the 2018-19 season with either Brooklyn or their G League affiliate. The contract, as it stands, is understood to be a one-year deal at the NBA's minimum salary, which is about $840,000 US. So that's a good payoff. They've got another E10 on their roster, Theo Pinson. The opportunity comes after Creek performed well for the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA Summer League earlier this month. The Aussies started 3 of the Mavs 5 games in Las Vegas, averaging 6.8 points and 5.2 rebounds per game. So Creek's contract is understood to include an Exhibit 10 clause, which means the Nets have the option to convert the deal into a two-way contract at any time prior to the regular season. So it's not the be-all and end-all of getting in there, but
it's a start.
Yeah, I mean, he's 26. What is he? I think he's just turned 26 in April. He's probably got a good 4 or 5 years of working hard trying to get in there. I mean, he's not young by NBA standards. He's kind of in the middle of his career at the moment. But I think that extra maturity and experience stands him in good stead as a player. And you could see it in the Summer League. You could see that he was a bit more mature than some of those guys.
Oh, completely. Especially on the Mavericks team. I think that was very ISO basketball, not a lot of team play. and I suppose missing their star recruit really didn't help the gelling of the team and the ball handling skills. But he rebounded really well, aggressively off the offensive boards as well. For a 6'5" guy is pretty testament to his skill and his ability to score as well.
Yeah, along the baseline and finish. Come up into the dunker spot and put the ball up. Even a couple of nice reverse layups, which were shows off his skills, showcases his talent. The best scenario, we'll see him perform so well that the Nets sign him to their opening night roster. Given Brooklyn's current roster, the franchise focus on recruiting good people and coach Kenny Atkinson's fondness for mobile forwards is seen as a genuine possibility. So,
Brooklyn are going to bring something to this year because they've really brought nothing to the NBA for a number of seasons.
Yeah.
They signed Lynn. He's got waived. He's off. They haven't really found...
We'll go through that a little bit later because I was looking through what they're trying to do, and it's a mess of, tanking yet trying to accumulate players and picks, and it's just been a mess. So secondly, the Nets may decide to following training camp to convert Creeksteel into a two-way contract. I don't know if they've got both of those two-way spots filled yet, but, you could play for the Long Island Nets. So the third possibility, if they just waive Creek at the start of the regular season, Exhibit 10 deals provide financial incentives for players to stick with their team's G League affiliate if they don't make the opening night roster and do not have their contract converted into a two-way. So he gets the money regardless.
That's nice.
Which is great.
Might get some G League games in there and get something out of that. I mean, that's how Baines started. Baines was a G League man for a number of years before he got to go with the Spurs. So there is a way if you want it and if you're hungry enough to go for it. And it seems that most of these Aussie boys are hungry enough to get there.
Yep.
They really want to make something of it and play in the big time, the big leagues.
It just shows how thin these margins are to even get close to getting a contract in the NBA, whether you're drafted, whether you sort of play for years in Europe like Brokoff, the fine lines to get into a roster are so slim. There's how many people in the US vying for these spots? To even get near a contract, you've got to appreciate that. And I feel like Creek's going to be mature enough to sort of respect that and, give his best.
Yeah, of course. When you get there, you want to stay there. But to be a stalwart of the NBA, you have to be week in, week out performing at the highest level. So it'd be really, really good. I want to see him there. It's going to make Brooklyn much more interesting to watch when they play teams like Philly or Golden State or Boston because they've got the East Coast. They've got the ability to get to the finals, at least to the playoffs if they want to. It's East is looking weaker and weaker, and it's a good area to be if you're trying to rebuild a squad and pick up some games. So hopefully.
Hopefully. So we'll go all the way back into his 36ers career. He played 200 games for the 36ers. He averaged 21 minutes a game and shot 34% from three. That's not his strength. 54.
It's not bad though.
That's not the worst. It's not terrible, but it's gonna make it look like that's less of a weapon for him on the statistics page. But I look at all forwards now, and the one thing most forwards in the NBA are trying to do now is something that Baines did in those finals: is just get out to the corner, not be known as a 3-point shooter, and knock down threes, and everyone goes, "Oh, I didn't know he had that in his locker." And it's like, yeah, but he's a forward. If he can sort of just sneak out and take those shots, would you rather him doing that than always standing out on the 3-point line? You know what I mean? So 54% from the field, not too bad. 4.1 rebounds per game, and an average 9.4 points. If you compare that to last season, his 17-18 season, he averaged 29 minutes, shot 60% from the field. So that's pretty good. 6.1 rebounds, 2.4 assists, and he averaged 14.8 points per game.
For our American listeners, you have to remember that the NBL is played under FIBA rules, so it's 8 minutes less than the NBA.
Yeah.
Which always is a bit of a downward pressure on stats conversion. This is what these guys are on, 30 points per game. They're playing a few more minutes, and the stoppages are more frequent in the NBA as well. They stop time quite a bit more. So that's another factor.
There's only, just over half the games as well. It's only 32 games, I think, in the NBL.
Well, there's 28 regular season games plus playoffs.
Yeah.
So much
shorter seasons.
Shorter seasons. They go off and they'll play in Europe in between, or in New Zealand, or go back and play in clubland if they want to.
Yeah.
In the regular season, but that's because we've got to compete with so many bloody codes of sport in this country.
Yes.
They play in the off season based on our.
Yeah. That's the hardest part about sport in Australia is we're so isolated here that football kind of gets around it, soccer kind of gets around it, that you can go and play in Asia now. Asia's a bit more accessible for us because we're in the Asian Confederation. But basketball is pretty much US or Europe. And those two are the two furthest points away from Australia, which makes it pretty hard.
Yeah, it's hard to flip between seasons. And
so you can see when he started out in 2010, 2011, all the continual growth, averaging 7.6 points in 13-14, up to 9.8 in 15-16, and then 12.1 points 16-17, and then 14.8 points last year. So there's been continuous growth at the NBL level, which
shows he's getting better and better and better.
Yeah, which definitely would put in the mind of scouts and coaches that.
Well, that's why he got the Summer League deal.
Yeah.
You looked at the Adelaide 36ers. He was a very integral part of that team making the playoffs. So very, very, very important to our hopefuls in the overseas Summer League when we look at some of the other guys that you like, Emmett Nars or Xavier Cooks, he was the standout, and we commented on that during our Summer League. He was the kind of standout dude.
That Mitch Creek?
Yeah. In the Summer League.
Definitely. Or someone like Deng Adel. But you'd look at, you'd contrast Deng Adel to Mitch Creek, and you'd say Mitch Creek had more fundamentals, was more solid defensively.
He's had 6 years of professional basketball under his belt as well.
Yeah. As opposed to Deng Adel, flashy, showed some nice moves and some flashes of good scoring.
Yeah.
So not necessarily locked in fundamentals that make a coach look at a player and say, no, that's a solid and mature player, which for Deng Adel, I think he's 22. So you'd obviously see that in a younger player.
He will be something in the future, I think.
Deng Adel, yeah. So the word I use to describe Mitch Creek's Summer League is maturity. He showed a mature presence on the court, mentally strong, mentally tough, defensively tough. I mean, he was playing against younger guys, and he's 26. So obviously, you'd look for a guy like Creek at 26 to dominate the younger guys. But just his whole game was very secure. His fundamentals were great. Good finishing around the rim. Very solid defensively. So I think he's he's a real chance to get onto that roster. So last year, 36ers, they reached the grand final, like you said before. They were defeated 3-2 by Melbourne. I didn't see any of that. I think I saw actually one game of that series.
I saw the highlights of the final, and it was a Chris Goulding spectacular, but Creek played well, especially at home. It's always hard to win away from home in anything, especially finals, but he played very well at home.
It's only a 5-game series, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which makes it sort of difficult. So
this is the roundabout way he got there with his contracts.
Yeah.
On the 2nd of April 2018. He was off to Europe, so he exercised his European clause out and signed with BG Göttingen
or something like that. Yeah,
that's right.
In the Bundesliga.
Bundesliga, and in 7 games he averaged 12 points, almost 3 rebounds, and 1.5 assists a game. He then opted into his European out clause, from his European out clause into his NBA out clause. I love these clauses. It's like, this is a shit league. If I get an offer, a better offer, I'm bucking off over there. Oh, no, I've got a better offer. I'm going over there.
Well, that's why when everyone got really upset with Adelaide, I kind of played devil's advocate and went, man, that's a bit sneaky, sort of affecting all these out clauses. And,
he's got his European out clause. What, did he not have an NBA out clause? And, he's gone through another team, and yet they were demanding money.
Well,
I didn't realize
I think
that.
he had to move and then move again to because he was a Olivier Versborg. He had to move and move again. So that's why I sort of was playing devil's advocate, like I said, for the 36ers, and saying he had to sort of sneak his way around this thing just to get his NBA out clause, just to go back and be able to go to the NBA. So that's why I thought, man, the 36ers aren't a franchise that's rolling in money.
No.
They at least deserve to be compensated for a player that's trying to go overseas adequately. And, you look at even a franchise like the Nets is infinitely more wealthy than the 36ers. So everyone got a bit upset, I thought, this is going to come back to haunt the 36ers. This is disgraceful behavior. And I'm like, man, they're a business. They're trying to get a little bit of money. There was probably a period of about 8 hours where you thought Mitch Creek might not be going to the NBA now, but they were always going to work it out. I think they filed an injunction. They ended up getting paid a little bit. I don't think it's been reported anyway what they got paid. I'm sure they were just like, yeah, we're happy. No worries. Thanks.
Yeah, here's a bit of chalk and change.
Yeah, pretty much.
Here's your coffee.
But I reckon there probably would have been 8 hours where Mitch Creek was thinking, oh, don't do this to me, please. Don't do this. And again, it shows how thin those margins are. Could be anything. Could be a club not wanting to let you go. It could be an injury.
Could be a medical. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You may not pass the medical.
Eventually he was released, and I think he's heading over there very soon. He might already have just gotten there. So his NBA dream is back on track.
So, looking to where Mitch hopefully will be fitting in with the Brooklyn setup, we'll go back a few years to the 2013-14 season under Jason Kidd, and they actually had quite a decent season, 44 and 38, and they made the playoffs. They made second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, they beat the Raptors that year.
So
that team had Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. It was a decent team. It wasn't a crap team. And then Jason Kidd obviously didn't agree with their management, and he got Willie left. He got traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. So they had a chance to sort of nuke their franchise and start again. It was pretty awful. A bit of sort of tanking, and Kenny Atkinson, I think he came in 16-17, led them to a 20-62 season. That's horrible, man. That's just horrendous. Last year, it wasn't any better. It was 28-54. Jeremy Lin.
They did pick up Lin, and they were hoping he was kind of going to do something for them.
But we were just sort of talking about these gravitational moves that you need to make to fix, quote unquote, your franchise seem to be getting further and away from these small, these lower down teams. You need to make 5 or 6 moves and invest 3 or 4 years really to start rebuilding franchises now. Philly have done it. The Bucks did it a little bit. You even look at sort of the Bulls are even sort of trying to start to do that now. They've been 2 or 3 years trying to regenerate their franchise.
Once they got rid of Carmelo.
The Knicks are just the Knicks, though. I don't know what's going on with their franchise. Their owner just doesn't care about them at all. It's just a money-making sort of thing for him. And ultimately, when you give your franchise over to money-making, it's no one cares what they're doing ever type of thing. Jeremy Lin got injured. That's a big blow because I think he was earning $12 million. You know, that's a big investment into a player to lose.
Yeah. First round.
So they finished that season. They had to make some moves, and this is where, you know, it's in the nether realms between tanking and trying to make moves to make your franchise better. So they've done a fair bit. They got offloaded Timofey Mozgov and Hamidou Diallo to Charlotte and picked up Dwight Howard. A lot of the Brooklyn fans were cursing the Dwight Howard curse.
Yes.
But they ended up dumping that Mozgov salary, which is pretty big. They cleared $16 million off their books. They drafted Zenan Musa, and they traded Kenneth Faried and Jarrell Arthur as well. So that's Kenneth Faried's a guy who is ahead of Mitch Creek in the pecking order. If Mitch Creek wants to play above his station, above his position, and play at power forward, Kenneth Faried's one of the guys that they've invested in, and he's one of the guys that he's going to have to get past to get onto that roster. So they drafted Kuruks as well. These are two, Zenan Musa and Kuruks are both small forwards. That's another sort of impediment to him getting onto the roster. They signed free agent Shabazz Napier, and he'll play back up to D'Angelo Russell and Spencer Dinwiddie. I think he was playing point guard for them a bit last year when D'Angelo Russell got injured. They traded Darrell Arthur to Phoenix for Jared Dudley, another small forward. He's 33 though, so another veteran type player. Then Dante Cunningham left in free agency to the Spurs, so they signed Ed Davis from the Blazers. And Ed Davis is listed as a power forward, but I think he's going to play backup center to Jarrell Arthur. Okay. And then I think they just traded Jahlil Okafor not long ago, one of your old
they
mates.
didn't trade him. I think they just cleared him.
I think, he left in free agency. Yeah.
Which is, you go from your rookie year scoring the most for your team into pretty much being out of the NBA.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you can't defend.
Well, again, I hate saying it, but small margins.
Yeah.
So where does it leave Mitch Creek in all of this? So there's 16 players on their roster at the moment, including another E10, which is Theo Pinson. So there's a real chance that he might get onto that roster. Their center, Jarrett Allen, is a 20-year-old young prospect. He's a potential rim protector. He can shoot the ball a little bit, and he can play a little bit of pick and roll. But they've only got one designated center on their roster listed at center. Kenneth Faried, who's an average to decent post scorer. He likes to sit in the dunker spot. He's not the greatest face-up scorer, and he can't shoot, as well as Ed Davis is pretty much the same. Both of those are listed at power forward, so I think they'll end up playing more center with a more mobile power forward and small forward. That's one way that Mitch Creek can get onto that roster, is bully his way into that power forward spot. I was thinking about that until I realised he's listed as a small forward and he's 6'5". So that's where you sort of think he's going to have to do something pretty miraculous and pretty magical to nail down a spot in that rotation playing at power forward.
Yeah, you might go in at the 3. You never know.
Well, that's where they've got kind of a log jam of players.
Yeah.
So Damari Carroll is obviously their main starting forward. He's their veteran. Creek could be doing pretty amazing things if he was to, bump Damari Carroll out of the lineup. Damari Carroll's an all-round scorer, which I think Mitch Creek, you couldn't classify him as an all-round scorer. You'd sort of make him a post-presence scorer and a defensive player in the post. Jared Dudley, obviously 33. I don't think he's going to get much sort of time. I think they sort of signed him to bring through their other 2 rookies.
Yeah.
Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, he's got a hip injury and he won't start the season. So there's a slight window there. And Zenan Musa and Kuruks, 2 small forwards. 29th pick was Musa, and he's a 6'9", 195 small forward. So tall, very, very lengthy. Not a great option for a small ball lineup, where I think that's where Mitch Creek would be a better option in a small ball lineup, faster lineup. And then Crooks is the same. I think he's just slightly smaller. I think he's 6'8". And, they're not the best mobile player. So that's where I think, Mitch Creek could kind of elbow his way onto that roster as a mobile sort of small ball player, finish around the rim. He's not known for his shooting. He's a lefty, and he's not known for his shooting from mid-range or from the arc. So hopefully if he can impress in training camp.
Yeah. I mean, 34% is still above NBA average.
Yeah.
33, I think, is NBA average.
But is the FIBA line shorter than the NBA three-point line?
Yeah, FIBA line is slightly shorter. But I think, I don't know, like most guys can shoot from the three better than they can from like 20 feet. So. And
shooting threes as well is starting to be a planned exercise, like a systematic, schematic thing to get guys threes, as opposed to, if he's playing power forward, he's got to leak out to the three. He's not going to stand out on the wing and drop threes unless you're shooting, 40% type of thing. So time will tell. I don't think they're a very well coached team, the Nets in general. And they've got 16 people on their roster. So
they've got to trim one, don't they? It's 15 people roster.
Yeah, but that includes their other E10. So there is a really good chance I think he can make that second two-way.
Yeah.
But, he's got to show something pretty special. So I hope he does anyway.
Yes. If not, we may be talking about him in the G League.
Yeah.
He'll definitely be there in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, so that's a wrap, really. So, what do you think he can achieve? Like, what's your prediction?
My prediction is he probably gets a start in the G League. They get injured because Brooklyn seems to get the worst injuries that you can imagine. Two-way contract, comes up for a few games, starts off with some trash minutes, as they mostly do. Fights his way on to a couple of minutes, and back end season start playing some actual minutes. I think when they realise that they're going nowhere and that the finals aren't in sight, then they do a bit more rotation if they're willing to invest in him. If they're not willing to invest and it's really just a bit of I'm adding players to the roster, then I think he stays in the G League and plays some trash minutes in between. But if they're willing to invest and get him in there, he starts playing more minutes back into the season with injury. It's injury cover. That's really what it is for me.
It's a real problem with these franchises where they don't really know what they're doing. Like a mid-tier franchise.
That roster doesn't scream playoffs to me at all.
Nah, it looks pretty just like a collection of players. Even if you had a great coach, maybe you'd make the playoffs, but Kenny Atkinson, it's not a great coach. A lot of different scoring options that aren't schematic in, a scheme. Like D'Angelo Russell is a ISO scorer. Dinwiddie is another ISO scorer. Damari Carroll is another isolation scorer. They all look just kind of jammed onto a roster with no real way
mechanism
to get these guys baskets. But I don't know if that's going to help or hinder Mitch Creek. I don't know if he has that isolation scoring ability of...
Maybe not, but maybe he's the glue that puts it all together. There are those guys that are the glue that help the ball movement and the spacing.
Yeah, so anyway, we'll follow him along in preseason and we'll give you any updates on whether or not he makes their roster.
Yeah. We've got to do a shout out to Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
That dude is beast.
Oh, yeah. Did you see that free throw line dunk?
Yes. If he was drafted tomorrow, he'd be the heaviest player in the NBA.
How heavy is he?
He's 285 pounds. He's a fucking machine. He's an absolute animal. He'll be a one and done. If he's not first or second pick, if he doesn't get injured, he'll be first or second pick.
What college is he playing for?
Duke.
Duke, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. First or second pick, hits the threes, then goes and dunks if they don't, if he doesn't make them, and defends and is solid. No, he doesn't get bullied out of the way by anyone. Really, first or second pick coming up there for him. I don't think he'll play more than one.
Have we got any Aussies playing college next year? I think Josh Green is the only real one that I've... Yeah.
They've all kind of matured and come out, I think, now. I think this was the... we've got a few in high school, but none in the college system as yet. But we're going to come and bring, in a further episode, Summer League, where are they now?
Yeah, it'll be good. A couple of guys in Europe, a couple of guys have come back to Australia. And poor old Mangok Mathiang.
In limbo.
Yeah, I hope that somebody picks him up. Yeah, because he was solid. I watched all of his highlights.
NBA body. Yeah, big dude.
It's skilled, man. Some good finishes at the rim, like great skills. Used his body smartly, but that's what happens in the NBA. It's a business at the end of the day. So
yes, fly by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Remember to follow us, Twitter. Subscribe, YouTube, like, comment if you like, if you want to see more, or what you want to see, what you want to hear about. It's always appreciated. So we'll be back next episode bringing you Ryan Brokoff, our other Aussie to join the NBA this season with Dallas, who is a phenomenal sharpshooter. Yeah. Kobe-like in many respects. I'm going to throw it out there. It's very, very similar style, very similar build as well. Kobe wasn't solid. He was a bit of a string bean, but definitely one to look out for in the Dallas system because he's been picked up as a sharpshooter, a cheap contractual sharpshooter. So anyway, we'll bring you Ryan Brokoff in the next episode. And remember, if you're a Sydney Kings fan, On the Kings Dime.
Yeah, check it out on the Kings Dime podcast on #TheCollective.
Peace.